Hello everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about the mentality of the Nazis. I've been reading this book. It is called The Third Reich by Michael Burleigh. This has been a very informative read, I must say, and he gets into the mentality of the SS. The SS were the elite forces of the Nazi military apparatus. These guys were the most heartless killers of the Nazi military machine. They did a lot of the massacres. The Waffen-SS did atrocious massacres in Eastern Europe, the Balkans. These guys were monsters. And part of the mentality of the SS was basically trivializing the worst crimes and exaggerating the trivial. So they would exaggerate the trivial. Smoking, drinking alcohol is bad. Woman, why aren't you having kids? And then they would trivialize their own inhumanities, their horrendous crimes, their atrocious sins. They would trivialize, they would belittle. They would speak of them as if they were simply sport. This was the mentality of the SS, amongst other things. So they would emphasize on smoking. Smoking is bad for you. Smoking is going to destroy the Volk. Smoking is going to destroy the health of the Volk. The Nazis would bash drinking soda. Soda is terrible for you. Alcohol is terrible for you. Don't drink alcohol. It's awful. It's ruining the health of the Volk. But what about massacres? What about genocide? What about exterminating entire villages? Well, that's no big deal. We're just defending the Volk. We are simply preserving Lebensraum, the living space of the German Aryan people. They would trivialize their own inhumanities, and they would exaggerate the trivial. This was the mentality of the SS. And you see this in a lot of cults. You see this, for example, in Islam. You see this in Islam, where you have ISIS murderers beheading people, burning people alive, drowning people, and then they'll talk about how we shouldn't drink alcohol.
Habib, assalamu alaikum, and Connor, congrats on proper 12.
Thank you, sir.
Could we get an official prediction on the fight?
You cannot say salam alaikum and congrats about whiskey.
Yeah, that's how these people are. They will sit there and they will say, don't smoke. Smoking is bad for you. I'm doing a Russian accent, but they would say like, don't smoke. Smoking is bad for you. Alcohol bad for you. Don't drink alcohol. Alcohol bad for you. It's against Islam. Smoking bad for you. Smoking bad for you. But ISIS doesn't mind beheading people, doesn't mind burning people alive, doesn't mind drowning people, crucifying people. But smoking is the big problem, right? Believing in Jesus as the Son of God, that's the horrendous crime in their book. But their own inhumanities, their own cruelties, their own atrociousness, that's not a big deal. Oh no, that's not a big deal at all. And you see this in Mormonism. Mormons will sit there and talk about how, oh, you can't drink caffeine. You can't drink caffeine. You can't smoke. Alcohol is bad for you. But Mormons will defend Joseph Smith. They will defend his polygamy. Smoking is bad for you. Alcohol is bad for you. But it was okay when Joseph Smith had 5,000 wives. That's fine. That's fine. It was okay when Joseph Smith and Brigham Young literally did wife swapping. They would swap each other's wives. Yes, they would share each other's wives. And the Mormons would do this thing where they would share each other's wives. And the way they would do it was that, so a lot of the Mormon leaders back in the 1800s had mansions. Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, a lot of these major Mormon leaders, they had mansions. If you were a major top of the line Mormon leader, if you were up on the hierarchy, you had a mansion. And you had many, many wives. And so what they would do is they would actually have sleepovers. So one Mormon leader would hang out with Joseph Smith at Joseph Smith's mansion, and then he'd bring all of his wives with him. So Joseph Smith and his friend would be hanging out in a mansion with each other's wives. So they would have like 50, 80 something women in the house with two dudes, and they'd be banging each other's wives. They used to do this, but smoking is bad for you. Chewing tobacco, that's bad for you. Oh, drinking soda pop, that's really bad for you. But what Joseph Smith did, oh, that's not a big deal, that's fine. Oh, by the way, Joseph Smith was a murderer. Joseph Smith had a little army of assassins. You can look this up. They were called the Danites. They were assassins. You had Wild Bill Hickman. You had Rockwell. These were some of the top assassins of Joseph Smith's private army. And they were murderers. Wild Bill Hickman wrote about how when he was assassinating this guy, he walked up to the guy as he was sleeping and he just stuck an axe into his skull. And if you read Hickman's autobiography, he talks about how he stuck an axe on this guy's skull and then the next morning had breakfast as if nothing happened. Yeah. But smoking is bad for you. Chewing tobacco, that's the real sin. But what Wild Bill Hickman did? Oh, they were doing God's work. They were doing the Lord's work. This is the mentality of a fanatic. A fanatic will always exaggerate the weight of the trivial, and he will trivialize his own atrocities. This is what radicals do. All radicals. A sign of a radical. I'm reading this book. It's called the Third Reich. And the author talks about the mentality of the SS, and he talks about the sign of a fanatic. And one thing that bespeaks radicalism, one thing that bespeaks a fanatic mind, is the trivialization of atrocities, the trivialization of serious crimes, and the exaggeration of the trivial. And all these cults do this. And you have a lot of libertarian lunatics who do this, by the way. You'll see, for example, libertarians will come out and they'll say things like, well, taxation is theft. Taxation is theft. And you would say, well, wait a second, we live in a society, we have a government. In order for the government and for the society to run, you have to pay taxes. It's not really theft. Well, no, it is theft because the IRS comes over and they demand your hard-earned cash. You got to pay the IRS. That is theft. That's no different than an armed robber coming to you and making you give him your money. It's theft. And then you say, well, no, those aren't the same things. The thief is not a government official. He's not representative of the government. He is not taking your money to have the government function or to have the society function properly. He's literally just stealing your money at gunpoint. Those are two different things. Oh, no. It's the same damn thing. And one thing that this book says that I really liked, and one thing that I find quite astute, is that the sign, or one of the signs of a fanatic, is the absence of proportions, the absence of proportionality. This is one of the signs of a fanatic. They don't understand proportion. They don't understand context. They don't understand, or they refuse to understand, and they refuse to acknowledge. They do understand these things. Everybody understands these things, but they refuse to acknowledge proportionality. So, for example, using the example of taxation. Well, taxation is from the government. As far as proportionality goes, this is the government demanding taxation to have the society function properly. This is not an armed gunman going to you with a gun and stealing your money. Oh no, it's the same damn thing because they're both taking your money, therefore it's theft. This is the absence of balance, the absence of proportionality. You also see this when libertarians and these anarchist types will say things like, arrest is kidnapping. When a police officer arrests somebody, that police officer is actually kidnapping that person. Well, hold on a second. You're deliberately ignoring the fact that that person got arrested for a particular reason. He has committed a crime. He is a suspect to a particular crime. So there is that, and that police officer is arresting that person because he has committed a particular crime. He has robbed somebody, he has shot somebody, murdered somebody, he has assaulted somebody, he's done something. He's selling drugs to kids. He has done something to get arrested. So that police officer is enacting justice within his capacity as a law enforcement agent, as a law enforcement officer. But it's kidnapping. No, the kidnapper actually just goes up to you, puts a gun on your head, and tells you to get into the car because he wants to kill you. He wants to use you to get ransom money, or both. He wants to take ransom money and kill you. Or maybe he's just a serial killer. That's not the same thing as a police officer arresting somebody. Oh, no, it is, because a police officer slaps the handcuffs on you, puts you in a police car, and then takes you away. Kidnapper puts you in his car at gunpoint and then takes you away. It's the same thing. Well, they both involve people being forced into a vehicle and being taken away, but they're not the same thing. But you see, with the absence of balance and proportionality, you have these radicals, these fanatics, who do these false equivalencies. This is one of the telltale signs of a fanatic.
And what's your story? That you can give sight to the blind?
I came into this world to give sight to those who cannot see. And to take away sight from those who can.
What do you mean by that? That we who are righteous are blind?
If you were blind, you would be without sin. But since you say we see, your sin remains.
That's true.
This man wants through the devil! No! He's a cheat! A fanatic! Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! Hypocrites all! For you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men! You do not go in yourselves, nor do you let others enter. Blind guides! You strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. You bow before the letter of the law and violate the heart of the law. Justice, mercy, good faith. You are like whited sepulchres, all clean and fair without, but within, full of dead men's bones and all corruption. You see these stones, do you not? I tell you, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Yours is a house of desolation, the home of the lizard and the spider. Serpents, brood of vipers, how can any of you escape damnation?
And this is something that Jesus warned people about. For example, when Jesus confronted the Pharisees, this is in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 23, verse 23. Jesus told the Pharisees, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, faith." So justice, mercy, and faith. "These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the others undone. You blind guides, which strain a gnat and swallow a camel." And that's what these people do. They strain at a gnat, this tiny little small minuscule insect, but they swallow an entire camel. They will focus on the trivial matters, but they ignore the heftier, weightier matters, which are justice, mercy, and faith. And that's why St. Paul says that all of the law can be summarized as the law of love. God is love. Because the whole of the law is justice and mercy. Justice and mercy and faith. But the fanatics, the lunatics, they want to focus on trivial matters, trivial details. They want to make it into, they would slaughter entire populations over trivial matters. And they will trivialize those crimes. They will trivialize the worst of crimes. but they will exaggerate the trivial, just like the SS, or just like ISIS. Smoking is bad, alcohol bad, but beheading people, exterminating entire villages, that's okay. This is a clear indication of fanaticism. That's what that is. And you see this today with a lot of, evangelical Christians or Messianic Christians. They'll talk about how they need to bring back the temple. We gotta rebuild the temple. We have to build the third temple. When Jesus said, you see this temple? Demolish it and I'll bring it back up in 3 days. And the Pharisees said, this man wants to destroy the temple. And that's why they killed Christ. They killed Christ because he said he was going to bring the temple down and rebuild it in 3 days. And they saw that as a threat to their establishment, to their system. And that's one of the reasons as to why. That's one of the reasons why they had Christ killed. They conspired to have Christ killed. And you have these psychopaths talking about building a third temple. Jesus said, I will be the temple. And these people want to rebuild the temple. Again, an absence of balance, an absence of context, an absence of getting the full picture of things. And not just focusing on a few details. Focusing on the forest. They don't want to focus on the forest. They just want to focus on a tree. And they say, well, there was a temple in ancient Israel, and the temple was destroyed by the Babylonians, but then the temple was rebuilt, so the temple was destroyed again by the Romans, so therefore the temple has to be rebuilt again. We have to rebuild the temple because the Jews rebuilt it in the Old Testament, so we have to rebuild it. This is insanity, because Jesus said, I will be the temple. Whoever wants to rebuild the temple is Antichrist. And you have this lunatic, Javier Milei. People were making a big deal. Javier Milei, Argentina. All of a sudden, for the first time in forever, Argentina is now headline news. No one gave a damn about Argentina. Who? Argentine who? Argentine sounds like an orange. Sounds like a type of tangerine that you buy at the grocery store. This is an Argentine. Oh, I love Argentine juice. No one gave a damn about something called Argentina. All of a sudden, everyone's talking about Javier Milei, Tucker Carlson. You hear what Tucker did? He hang out with Javier Milei. And Javier Milei, he Jewish. He converted to Judaism. And Latin American people, I don't know what drugs they take down there, but for some reason, they are obsessed with anything Jewish. They want to be Jewish. I've never in my life met a Latin American who said he wasn't Jewish. Every Latin American I've ever met has told me that he was Jewish. Everyone. I went over to Spain, the motherland of Latin America, and everyone there told me, oh, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. No, I look up my last name. My last name, Valero, like Valero gas station. My last name, Valero. I read that there was a Jewish guy in Spain. He was killed by the Inquisition. So that's my last name. So I'm Jewish. We're all Jewish, man. I'm Jewish. They all think they're Jewish. They're all obsessed with being Jewish. So Javier Milei converts to Judaism, and you see this schizophrenia flowing out of him, and all the lunatics who think he's great, they're all crazy as well. This guy's talking about building a temple and all this crap. It's over. The temple is over. It was destroyed. That's it. Jesus said, I am the temple. Oh, no, we have to rebuild it because the Bible talk about rebuilding a temple. They rebuilt the temple. They rebuilt this, so we have to rebuild. But Jesus said, I am the temple. So why are you blaspheming? Why are you being Antichrist? Why are you being Antichrist? God destroyed the temple. You know who destroyed the temple? It wasn't the Romans. It was God. God used the hand of the Romans as a scourge to destroy the temple because the Jews killed his son. That's it. God was mad. He was upset. He was upset as an understatement. He was enraged at Israel. So he had the temple destroyed. And now all of these morons want to rebuild it. Why? It's over. That's it. It's over. That's it. It's done. It's done. We got the Wailing Wall. The Wailing Wall. It's not even part of the temple. The Wailing Wall is not even part of the temple. It's something else. It's something else. They're like, it's the temple. It's holy. The rocks on the wall are holy. No, it's crazy. It's completely crazy. I don't know what drugs people are taking, but I want nothing of it. Let me tell you. Nothing of it, guys. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. You just heard some theology. God bless.